Like one of the most emotionally important scenes that we've had so far. And there's just a little baby in the background just screaming her lungs out at a higher volume of anybody talking dialogue. It's a weird choice that really makes this film feel real at times. That was one of my first initial reactions. I don't know what you're cracking up about.
My roommate's cat.
But that opening
has just been like while you're talking about the kid screaming her ass off, the cat is just. Hey guys, you know who it is, what's going on, when it's happening, where it's at, and why we're here today. How you doing? It is I, the sublimely magnificent big ugly himself, Omari Ellis Feo Grande on YouTube, and I just remembered to turn my light on. How you doing? Now you can actually see me, and we're back here for another episode where we're talking about movies, and of course, this ain't no one-man conversation. I'm here, as always, with one of my best friends in the world, El Director himself, Bill Smith.
Hello, buddy. How are you today?
I'm doing fine. Doing nice and fine now, especially with the new exposure. Got a new sight on life.
Yeah, you really brightened up my evening there.
Well, thank you. Same. Yes, and this week, this is another episode that this guy hasn't seen, where we talk about movies that one or the other hasn't seen. We've been trading movies back and forth for more than 10 episodes now, I'm pretty sure. We've been doing it. Yeah, let's go, right? Woo! And this week, after last week, and you've seen the title, you know what we're talking about, but after last week where I got hit with an award-winning film, I decided, hey, I had it in the chamber as a counter so that I don't follow it up with the Molly's Game like I did with Hamilton. I'm like, here's an award-winning film that somehow this gentleman had not seen. The Godfather. Godfather is a film from 1972 starring Al Pacino and Marlon Brando, among many other familiar faces. About mafia stuff and gang bosses, specifically like the Sicilian, era, or not genre. Sicilian subset.
The Sicilian genre of mob.
The Sicilian subset of Italian gangster from the 70s or 50s type time period.
Even farther back.
Okay, from like the 20s. Oh yeah, I guess it might
Too
have
far.
been. Whenever. From an old time ago, a real long time ago. But yes, it was obviously multi-award winning, seen as a true classic. It's one of those movies where you say you don't like it and you get weird looks from people, and they're like, how dare you never give me your opinion on anything in your life, you uneducated swine. And I'm like, Jesus, I just didn't like the movie. It's 3 hours long. You know what I mean? That's not to say anything about this particular watch, but back in the day. So yes, it is a award-winning film. I wish I knew the director. I always want to say Scorsese, but I'm pretty sure it's way before his time. Also, they had a different guy's name before The Godfather this time. It was so-and-so's The Godfather, and I'm like, it's not Scorsese.
It's Coppola. Francis Ford Coppola.
That was not even the person's name they had on the thing when they said so-and-so's The Godfather. But you're right, it is Francis Ford Coppola, father of whatever Coppola who changed his name to Nick Cage. Right?
No, I believe they are related. I think maybe he is
like
his
a nephew
uncle
or something.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Francis Ford Coppola directed Apocalypse Now.
Mm-hmm.
This film, Godfather Part 2, also wrote many films.
Yeah.
Also father to Sofia Coppola.
Sofia Coppola.
Who is a director in her own right. She's done a bunch of films.
That's what I get for trying to
But I believe there is some
Random
relation
access.
there with Nick Cage, but I don't think Nick Cage is his son.
Yeah, fair enough. I know he's related, if not to Coppola, to somebody else with a recognizable last name. And also, he's a comic book fan, so not wanting to be too attached or to, be in the shadow of that person, as well as, I like Luke Cage. He's like Nick Cage. But yes, no, it's a great movie and everything. So, any particular? Well, I guess I first saw this film I saw this film over a decade ago, probably a decade and a half at this point almost, with some college friends. And they pretty much were like, "What? You haven't seen The Godfather? You uneducated swine, you?" And I'm like, "What the hell? What? No, I don't know. It just seemed like a serious movie. I'm not into serious movies that hard." And with it being heralded as film incarnate, I was like, you got it. It's great. It's fantastic. It's a masterpiece. I don't need to watch it to validate your opinion. Mm-hmm. But eventually I watched it with them, and how I was at the time and just state of mind, I guess, and just the way and the fact that I wasn't really trying to watch it in the first place. I would have much rather have been playing video games with the friends that day. I found it boring, and it never ended. And I fell asleep at one point, woke up to see someone get shot in what I thought was a raceway, and then went back to sleep. And I was like, I did not like this movie, but everyone else can have it. But when I had heard that you hadn't seen it, I was like, well, I'm an adult. I'm more of an adult now. So maybe I should give this movie a fair shot. It is considered a classic and film incarnate, so I'm gonna go ahead and give this a legit shot as an adult and do it as part of this show with another film buff to see, if I feel the same and if I didn't. However, and if I did feel the same, was my opinion validated? But you, sir, how have you not seen it? Or why hadn't you seen it?
Well, so this will be the movie for us with the most amount of gray area in this realm of things.
Gotcha.
So I worked it out as I was starting to watch it, but I believe it went like this. When I was younger, in my late teen years, and starting to be a film buff where I would be watching these kind of movies, I believe I had convinced myself that I had seen this movie. And then later in my adult life, I believe I had convinced myself that I had not seen this movie. And what the honest truth is that I've probably what probably is the honest explanation, the obvious explanation here is that I've probably seen many chunks of this film in about 20-minute bursts on some form of cable TV.
I could see that.
There was a lot of this movie that felt familiar and felt very like, okay, this is not my first time viewing this. But for instance, things like the entire sequence in Italy, I do not believe I have ever seen before.
I did not remember that one bit.
Well, as you said, you maybe
I know I said I probably
several...
fell asleep through that part, but this movie rewatch for me practically was a first watch. There were some things that I saw that I was like, oh, I remembered that, or I know that scene has been parodied 1,000 times. There were I noticed a lot more sources of the memes than I had noticed before. I'm like, oh, that's where this whole thing comes from? Well, damn. But yeah, so
yeah, if I'm honest and respectful to our format, I want to be true to it and admit that I made this realization as I was starting to watch it of my history with Godfather. And like, no, I'm pretty sure I was like, because also the thing is, the reason why it hasn't been a rewatched item for me ever in my adulthood is at some point I had convinced myself that it was similar to a Apocalypse Now extended cut 4.5 hour thing.
Ooh.
That I was supposed to watch. Like, what I'm saying? Like, I thought there was like a director's cut out there or something, an extended, that's the one you're supposed to see.
The true version. Like,
right, the
Lord
true
of the
Godfather.
And shit, director's cut shit.
Yeah. So I had convinced myself at some point over the years that when I finally did sit down and do that, it was going to be a 4-hour endeavor that I had to sit through. And so that was another reason why I was always pushed away. It continued to remain in the black hole of my watchings.
I also was convinced it was a 4-hour like affair as well, which is why I hadn't rewatched it and given it that fair shake that I've known I should give it for like the past 5 years. I'm like, but I ain't got 4 hours to sit through a movie I don't remember liking.
But it was something about it that told me that it was like extra long.
And I
like
mean,
3-hour movie is nothing these days.
Days.
I could make the argument that this was still too long, but this will be long. That'll be later in this discussion.
But, yeah, but no, it was sort of. But yeah, that's it. We watched it this time, so. Yeah, I guess that. So, what were you expecting, or if you had you come to that realization of maybe you have seen a lot of chunks before you started watching, and if so, or if not, what were you expecting?
Well, I knew what I was getting into. I knew all of the players, even if I hadn't seen so much of this movie that I realized I had seen. I could have still told you the entire plot.
Gotcha.
Because I mean it's one of the basis of mob movies is this kind of plot of like no, we're a good mob family. And then somebody brings drugs into the equation and they're like, no, drugs are bad, we're a good mob family. And then drugs muck up the works and a lot of people die. Like, that's kind of the thing. And I knew that was that Godfather, if it wasn't already taking that from a model of a 1920s film when gangster movies were really popular, when they had their heyday before they kind of reemerged with The Godfather and movies like Scorsese's films. I may not be aware of that kind of plot. Otherwise, it's The Godfather that kind of started that, and then that's a regular running theme of mob films.
Yeah, it's one of the two.
Yeah, and I knew all the players. I knew that Al Pacino. I knew Marlon Brando. I knew the Oscar winnings. The some of the behind the scenes drama stuff, just from being a film nerd and consuming like facts and trivia things and listicles and YouTube videos of top 10 moments of this or whatever. There was a lot of things that I knew and were anticipating. There were some things that were quite initial reactions right when I'm jumping into the film are beyond me kind of making those calculations of my history of viewing it or not viewing it. It's really interesting, the visual take that is done with this film, or some might say lack thereof, but I feel like it's intentional. I mean, you have for what is, I believe, currently on IMDb, the number 6 greatest film of all time, currently sitting with a 9.2 rating. I know it's on the AFI top 100 list in probably the top 10.
Yeah,
in there.
I've rarely heard anyone say anything bad about this movie.
Yes, for this film being on the greatest films of all time, it doesn't do a lot of exciting things with the camera. There's not a whole lot of big sweeping grand shots. There's the camera is kind of at eye level all the time for the characters, and it stays there, and it makes a really interesting feel, and maybe it helps all of these performances that have now gone down as such legendary performances. At times this film feels like almost a documentary.
Yeah.
Like with the wedding in the opening scene, not the parts of D'Antoni's office where he's getting requests, but just the general moveabouts of the wedding itself feel so real and like we're watching real people, like we're watching a real wedding. And another thing, I'm wondering if part of that is the children that I kept noticing. Like, I don't know if that happens anymore in films that are made today in TV. Like, kids aren't just allowed to be kids and like whiny and cry. Like, there were a couple of scenes where the actors could barely talk over like a screaming child, and and that's the take that they choose to use.
Yeah, or when they interrupted one of those, you had my daughter's wedding things. Hey, somebody's talking to him, and then the kid just, get him out of here. Like they just
the scene where he comes back from the hospital. He finally returns home sick, and the entire family is huddled up around him, and grandkids are walking up and like giving him his presents and stuff. Through 60-70% of that scene, there's just like one of the most emotionally important scenes that we've had so far, and there's just a little baby in the background just screaming her lungs out at a higher volume of anybody talking dialogue. It's a weird choice that really makes this film feel real at times. That was one of my first initial reactions. I don't know what you're cracking up about.
My roommate's cat.
But that opening
has just been like while you're talking about the kid screaming her ass off, the cat is just. So I was like, oh, there's this little kid just screaming his ass off. Shut up. No, I'm kidding. No.
So yeah, that was one of my very first initial reactions in starting to watch the show the movie was that opening wedding scene, and just like, this feels like a real fucking wedding. It's crazy.
Yeah, I made me want to go to a freaking Italian wedding. Like, can I go?
So since we're almost on the same footing here on this episode, let me throw it back at you. Initial reactions.
All right. So yeah, now it. Oh my god!
I heard her. I heard him that time.
Oh Jesus!
What is it? Fatty meow meow.
That's a nickname for him, but Mr. Fuzzums. Oh my god! You done? Please. All right. So, much like yourself, I was also expecting, mob shit with the movie. I knew make him an offer he can't refuse. And why is it that you chose today of all days, my daughter's wedding, to come to me with your request?
Yeah, I've seen all the be a man! You be a man! God. Yeah, I've seen all of those. But yeah, it was surprising how realized I had seen so many full scenes. I was like the whole hospital scene with Al Pacino.
Yeah.
That was the one where I was like, oh, I think I've seen this entire scene. This is in the middle of the movie. That was the moment. That was one of the moments where I was like, okay, this is pretty deep in the movie.
Yeah.
I should probably have seen this a little bit more than this guy hasn't seen. But yeah, sorry. Initial reactions.
No, so I was expecting the mob shit, and like I said, I didn't remember liking the movie, which is what part of why I had never really rewatched it.
Which is an interesting send for this little game we're playing.
But I know it's a classic, so
yeah.
I'm like I said, I said my option select whether it's either A, I watch it and I reappreciate it, or B, I don't like it and somehow you also don't like it and my opinion gets validated. Thank you. You like good movies and you said this is trash. That was gonna be like if I didn't like it again and somehow you didn't. That said, I didn't remember enough. Like some certain things came back to me, but the second old dude starts and he's just talking to the camera. My name is so and so Berserlio. My daughter. She does this and that as the camera just slowly backs out. I'm like, I don't remember this monologue at all, and maybe I completely misjudged this movie. This is a good monologue, and it was that, and like you said,
that's a great monologue. It really that's encapsulating everything about that man in that one monologue. He came to this country for the American dream. He's tried to keep away from the other Italians he knows in his community, even though they're friendly to him because he knows they're bad dudes. He trusts in the American dream, and the American dream does unspeakable things to his daughter, and the accuser has zero consequences done upon him, all because of the American dream.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful, heartbreaking monologue.
Yeah, and then it goes. So I go right from that to Vito talking, and it's like, "This is the day of my daughter's wedding," and it kept it like, so this is what everybody parodies. I wasn't sure if that was Godfather 1 or 2 or whatever. I'm like, okay, it's this. This is what's parodied. I immediately realized that I didn't. As the movie would go on, I didn't remember shit about the plot because I kept getting attached to characters. And immediately, like right after I type in my notes, I like this character, they've just fucking died. And I was like, oh, come on, man. But no, like Vito early on, I was just like, you know what? I kind of like Vito because, yeah, everybody takes a lot from the Godfather, especially, there's the Don that everybody has to answer to. But generally, that guy is a fucking prick through and through. Like, Vito seemed like he had some genuine care, at the very least, for his kids and family, but the community as well. Even if he was a criminal, especially when he turned down the drugs, he's like, more power to you, but we can't do this one. It's like, all right, that's fair. You know what, Vito, you a chill ass dude. I'm gonna get some oranges. Oh no! Oh, that was right. What sucked about that is it was Luca Brasi. I liked him right off the bat. Those kind of characters are genuinely or generally just really cool dudes. And he had a name like Luca fucking Brasi.
Luca Brasi.
Yeah, just like, I'm gonna send Luca Brasi to him. It's like, oh no, you don't want to mess with Luca Brasi. And Al Pacino's character, who I was like, pretty sure that's Al Pacino. Is it Al Pacino? I could have sworn it was Al Pacino. I think it's Al Pacino. I'm gonna wait for the credits. I'm gonna look real stupid. I'm gonna look real stupid if it's not Al Pacino. Or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's how I felt about him, this movie. But he did a great job, great acting all around. I learned that early on. Also, I was like, Michael's a fucking snitch.
Best performance from Al Pacino I've ever seen.
At first, when he's just,
I'm normally not a big Al Pacino fan, but he's the least Al Pacino I've ever seen him in this movie.
I actually like his character too, because he's like at first he's the outcast, just oh no, I don't do that stuff. In fact, I just straight up rat to you, this random girl I'm bringing to meet my family for the first time. Yeah, they're killers and mafia members. You can
but did something huge over in World War II. Did something big because complete and utter strangers see his face and call him a war hero.
Yeah.
Like they know who he is, and he did something pretty big deal in the war, and has recently returned from it. That's what we're being told as the audience.
That is true. But
back to the timeline thing. This goes from, I believe, 1945 to 1951.
45
That's
to 51.
the time span. That's the time span of the film.
Okay.
Like 48. No, it might even be sooner than that.
But okay, it's about
late
40s, early 50s.
Right. That's around the time that we're viewing.
Okay, so yeah, he was cool, and but when he told that story about Luca Brasi, where he was just like, well, yeah, Johnny Fontaine, he did so and so. What happened? Well, I made him an offer he couldn't refuse. What does that mean? You don't want to know that. You know what I mean? Okay, fine. My dad sends Luca Brasi over to him and does blah blah blah, and next thing you know, this also. That's my family, though. That ain't me. I'm like, damn, he's just telling her everything.
Yeah.
I thought he'd make up something. To keep it, But no, he's just like, nah. They're fucking killers. And I just told you that. Do with that what you will. You probably shouldn't do anything with it.
Yeah, I wouldn't do anything with it. Or else you'll meet Luca Brasi, and you don't want to meet Luca Brasi.
Luca Brasi. So I was so sad when he...
Yeah, man, I loved Luca Brasi.
I
love Luca Brasi.
Him to apparently attack the dude,
because I've done a bunch of like outside digging and just learning of things. Apparently, he's a much larger character in the novel that this film is based on, compared to the movie, and a lot of where it goes into a little bit more of his kind of more simpleton nature.
Yeah.
Just like, so like the when Robert Duvall when Robert Duvall comes up to Vito and he's like, Luca Brasi's here. He's surprised that you invited him, and he just wants to thank you for it.
Yeah.
That is referring to, in the novel, apparently Luca is terrifyingly violent. Terrifyingly violent, where Vito loves and respects him for the things that he's done for the family, but does not have him around the family.
Gotcha.
Because of the things he's seen Luca do.
So that's why he's like, I am honored and great that you have invited me into your home.
Yes.
Because at first it seemed like he was just a well-known mafia dude that was like an associate to the family. But then he kept talking.
No, it's one of his oldest friends.
Yeah, then they kept talking like, no, he's been around the road. What's he... He seemed like he was practicing like he'd never been in the house before, but what you said makes sense. That was one of the weirdest things about it. I'm like, I'm sure there's a reason for that.
Yeah, he's a character that's apparently delved into a little deeper in the novel.
Okay.
And gets left on the cutting room floor for this film.
Yeah.
But yes, I also love Luca Brasi, and I love that scene. Apparently the behind the scenes of that is that he is, I want to say he's a boxer or something in real life, the actor, and that is him actually rehearsing his dialogue because he was so nervous about having a scene with Marlon Brando. And Francis Ford Coppola found him on the sidelines doing that to himself and goes, but you're going to do that in the movie. Hold on a second. I'm going to get a chair for you. We're going to film you doing that.
They're like doing it in the background of like the fucking scene where Michael's like talking to Kay. She's like, what does that guy do?
Yeah, he's talking to himself.
Hi, my name is Luca Bronze. I'm like, and he was so nervous, or the delivery and everything that he had, which obviously, if he was really feeling that way, definitely enhanced.
No,
the
I think that's just a real person, and we are seeing, like, he's allowing people to call him Luca Brasi, but it's whoever that dude is. That's who we're seeing in that moment. And he's just incredibly nervous to be on camera, on a set with Marlon Brando, being filmed.
But at first, I thought, I'm like, is this guy wearing a wire? He is like, extra, I am pronouncing my lines right now. You know what I mean? But
An Italian-American professional wrestler.
All right.
Lenny Montana. That's Lucas. That's Luca Brasi. You know who Lenny Montana is?
No, but that's a sick name too.
Oh,
he's Lenny Montana. Then he goes
Lenny Montana.
Like, I don't want to fight neither of those motherfuckers. guy looking like that comes at me, says his name Lenny Montana. I'm like, I'm sorry. What? Tell the Don, my condolences. But no, like, I don't know. It was one of those things where I like the movie. I was liking the way that things goes, and when he just randomly sits there, like after the dad gets shot, and he's like, "All right, I'll tell you what to do. Have them meet up with me, do so and so, so and so, so and so." Because he goes from not being involved in anything to just blah blah blah, and I'll kill the motherfuckers myself. Like, well, damn.
Yeah. You see him very quietly turning that inside of that scene right before those lines.
Yeah.
You see him turning into the Michael that we know in the second half of the movie.
Yeah.
It's his transformation throughout the film as a character is pretty incredible. And I mean, this movie is riding on the shoulders of him and Marlon Brando, as far as I'm concerned. Yes. Robert Duvall is also doing an incredible job as the
was he the consigliere?
Yeah, he was the consigliere who was never part of who was never actually a family member.
Yeah,
kind of guy. Maybe controversial, especially because R.I.P. like I believe recently passed. I do not like James Caan in this movie. He doesn't even really give off Italian vibes to me. That's Sonny.
Okay.
I don't really like him in this film. I'm sorry. But
I was fine with Sonny, but it was one of those he grew on me type deals.
Mm-hmm.
Because at first,
the character itself just seems to be a meathead, hothead dude. So there's not much depth there to do. But I don't know, like for one, like I don't feel like he gives off Italian vibes to me. He could be very Italian for all I know, but like I don't think James Caan,
or at least not to the same
Italian
level like the majority of them were giving off.
Right. Everybody else in there gives off fucking Mamma Mia.
But yeah. But I like the Sonny. I think that's what won him over when Sonny beat that dude up for hitting his sister, and then was like,
right, beat the shit out of that dude.
Yeah, I'm like, get him, Sonny. Beat the
that fucking little rat dude, man. Oh my god, that guy, that dude,
so fucked up.
Michael took care of him eventually.
Rightfully fucking so.
Right. I wanted him to at the very end, where we're just skipping to things. Very end of when he eventually lies to Diane Keaton and tells her no, that he didn't have any involvement in. I just had his name up. Carlo, when he that he had no involvement in Carlo's death. I wanted him to just be like, that motherfucker has beaten my sister black and blue on more than one occasion.
Yeah.
And he got my brother killed.
Yeah.
He literally gave up my brother. It's the reason why my brother is dead.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck do you want me to do?
Yeah.
Have you not gotten what goes on in this house yet? You're still here.
Yeah. That family, yeah, exactly. It's like, there's no way you can be a full grown adult and think anyone can fuck with you and get away with it if we find out about it.
Right. Like, first time Mike is one thing, but when he comes back to you years later, very clearly a mob boss, you got into that life. Don't be putting any moral high grounds anywhere near me after you choose to jump into that life. Like, I know I haven't seen Godfather 2 and Godfather 3. Hardly at all. Well, no, that's absolutely a lie. I've seen a lot of Godfather 2.
Okay.
But I can't tell you what happens to Diane Keaton and Al Pacino in that. I only remember Robert De Niro playing, because it's basically two halves of a movie. It's flashbacks of Robert De Niro playing young Marlon Brando when he was still in Italy, and the continuation of the Corleone story after the movie that we just watched. And I don't remember what the continuation of this is.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've heard Godfather 2 is even better than the first. Or
I believe a lot of people say that. But yeah, I mean, they're both pretty high ranking. And then a lot of people say Godfather 3 is not good.
Yeah. the Italy thing, though, because you mentioned that earlier, I was like, what the hell is going on here? Okay, well, I get it. He's in hiding, which I totally thought he was going to fuck up that shooting at the bar, because they kept focusing on, remember, drop the gun there, do this, do that, do that. Hey, remember, come out, do so. Now, he did come out and not immediately just bam, bam as he came out the bathroom.
I was like, dude, why are you not? But man,
that made it so much more cold, though.
The train sound effect in those moments were so powerful. It was very effective. It had me pretty tense.
Yeah, I loved that scene. I'm like, what? No, he actually did it. He actually shot both those motherfuckers, and I'm like, oh no, he's got to hold on to the gun. No, he actually did. He actually dropped it.
I was the same thing. I was like, drop the gun. Okay, he dropped the gun.
I'm like, I knew he was gonna fuck something up. He's holding on to the gun. Okay, no, he dropped it. All right, he did it, and then he starts dating the chick over in Italy, and I'm like, oh,
who doesn't get to speak until they murder her?
Yeah, I'm like, oh, fuck Kay, I guess. Because I remember because they put a lot of time into him and Kay, and then he goes over there and immediately just sees a girl and like, what's your name? Apollonia? I'm gonna fucking marry you.
I mean, it was. I think the movie is trying to portray love at first sight between the two of them, and yeah, it's like, Kay who? And it takes him a couple of years after getting back from Italy to finally seek out Diane Keaton again. So Apollonia was probably a big deal to him. I thought it was weird that she didn't speak for quite a long time.
Yeah, I was
they went on dates, they got married, we saw her titties, all before she said one single word, before she made a single sound.
I was like,
and then she got to say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday.
And she's like, I know it's Monday, Wednesday,
and then they kill her 30 seconds later.
I was like, oh come on! I was like, was she another one of those people where I was like, oh no, during the stand-up moments? Okay, sorry, I was like, because it was like, stand-up moments. Early in the movie, old dude, cha la la, at the wedding again. It felt like a real wedding. I'm like, oh, this guy's awesome. There's some shit where I'm like, oh, Luca dying, sad face. Vito dying, or not? So and so dying.
My notes consisted of cat with Brando in his famous scene? Question mark. I had never remembered that there was a cat there struggling to like play with Brando while he's trying to do his like one of his most famous monologues.
Right? It's just random.
Yeah, it was just a cat.
Yes, that he had a cat in his lap.
And then I typed that I am adoring this old guy singing at the wedding.
So
And that's and it's not the cool one who shows up and begs for the movie part.
No,
the
old
early,
guy.
much earlier. Yeah, there's a really old guy that gets up and sings in Italian. Yeah, and those are the only notes. I'm terrible at taking notes on these things.
But no, just understand that was it was like Vito dying, sad face, or not. Then Sonny's death, sad face. Apollonia's death, and then I put lol because you could see. Where she was supposed to be in the car, there was like something to be like a semblance of her, like looked kind of like a melted blow up doll. So I was like, Apollonia death, low blow up doll, but sad face. And then Vito's death again, because I'm just like, oh, come on, man! Right when I was like, yeah, I love these characters, and then early I was like, okay, I feel like all the cool characters are gonna die. And then it's just how it is.
Yeah. That's kind of it's a running theme there. I mean, man, we want to jump into standout moments, So I find it interesting that the Godfather is now, but was not a mob thing. It's not a phrase in relation to the mob. It's never used that way in relation to the mob in this film. It's referred to as the Don, or the Don Father.
No, they say Godfather too.
But the Godfather is always in relation to children. It's always in relation to you're the godfather of, and that it's a very important religious thing, and then the final leading to one of my biggest standout moments, obviously the montage of Michael's rise to power as he's going through his Godfather oaths in the church for his nephew is a pretty fucking awesome scene. And then I just find that I find it interesting that then after that it becomes like Godfather, just like the mob takes it on as like, we're gonna start. That's gonna start being our term for our bosses now.
Pretty much. Yeah, I feel like it is one of those things where it set the mold that everybody else tries to base off of.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like, I'm doing a fantasy thing. Well, I gotta at least start with all the creatures from the Lord of the Rings and work out from there. Right. And make it my own. Or Dungeons and Dragons. Which I think took stuff from Lord of the Rings itself. So. But, let's see. Yeah. Freaking, like I said, I will say Sonny's death was a standout moment for me because it was one of the few things I had remembered from the first time. Also, the famous like horsehead scene that always gets parodied. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That one, I'm like, oh shit! So that's why the horse thing happened. I remembered it happened. I didn't. It was like watching the movie for the first time, even though I had little bits that I did remember. I did pretty much. I think anything after Sonny, after Sonny dying was fresh to me. So that was fun. Obviously Italy was that, but yeah, the whole movie, not the whole movie, was a standout, but yeah, I enjoyed it. Any more standout moments from you?
Yeah, I would point to. I mean, there are a lot of like bone chilling tense moments in this film that they do very well.
Yeah.
Like I listed before, with the train noise over the top of first him trying to find the gun, scrambling to find the gun behind the toilet, and then the train noise coming back right before, as he's like psyching himself up to stand up and fire, was incredible. And then right before that at the hospital, when that whole sequence and that kind of also shows you early hints of what Michael is going to be.
Yeah.
He walked into a situation, immediately assessed it, immediately started working on a solution, and solved the problem. Like pretty matter of factly.
Yeah,
it's a nice scene to watch.
No one's
like
here.
I think his brother tells him on the phone, "I won't panic." Yeah. Like Sonny tells him, "Don't panic," and he says it as in like, "That's not happening.
Yeah.
You shouldn't even be saying that to me."
He's like, "I won't." He's like, "I'm not panicking. We gotta move my dad. We gotta move into another room." Nope. You're gonna do it. You're gonna do it. And you're gonna do it now. Let's go.
Yeah. No. Yeah. We see the Michael to come in those moments.
I'm Enzo, the baker. I felt like he was.
Enzo does a great job, man. Props to Enzo.
He does.
He's standing there so nervous.
The bluff they do when the cars are coming, like the car, we got a car full of people with guns. Just these two dudes, and then they like, nah, let's drive off. I'm like,
the strongest bluff in the history of bluffs. If they call your bluff, you are just getting filled with bullets. You are about ready to get filled with bullets, and that's the only result. Either they drive off scared, or you get filled with bullets.
This is a fucking nat 20 buff. Like, no, you know what? Nope. Because they could have seen it like, oh, he's reaching, shoot him before he pulls his gun out.
Right.
There's 5 of us in this car. One of us should be able to.
But they also, they probably weren't instructed there. They weren't instructed to go there and make a scene. It's supposed to be a clean, quiet thing. That's why they got everybody removed.
So it was nice. I liked the way his plans literally just kept going off like damn near without a hitch at all when he was allowed to plan.
It's a little. At times, I feel like the plot's a little hidden. Like maybe they want you to kind of figure it out a little bit.
Yeah.
Like with the whole, you kind of have to. You have to put the dots together of like, okay, so they knew. Just in mob rules, they kind of knew as soon as Vito dies, his 2 best friends, his 2 consiglieres kind of dudes one of them is going to make a betray move.
Yeah.
And so it's whoever comes to us first with a meeting opportunity. That's the motherfucker that's betraying us. And they called it right.
Yeah.
And that would be another standout moment. Like again, I think Robert Duvall does a very good job in this movie. That's another one where he's got to be the one to send Tessio down the river.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, get me off this time for old time's sake. Just like, nope.
Can't do that.
Can't do it.
You know you fucked up. Yeah, because and they give you a lot of reason for him to fucking betray, because Sonny just treats him like shit. Just, oh, it's like, I'm the real kid here. You're not. Oh, yeah, I'm just as much as kid as you are. I'll show you, don't you fucking mess with me, but I'll still do the stuff. And so when eventually it's like, he could betray him, but at the same time, I don't know. I kind of want him to not. And then it's like, yeah, whoever talks to Bonzini first. That's the thing. It's not the other guy because he's I did like that Vito knew how to fix everything Sonny did wrong. Like pretty much instantly once he was actually back up on his feet, he's like, "No, we need to end this war. We need to end it now. Okay, I lost a son. You lost a son. Let's fucking end this shit."
Yeah, Brando's speech at the meeting of the five families is fucking incredible. I see why it's one of those performances.
So yeah, there's a lot of standout moments, especially when you just talk about performances and stuff.
So I don't know if it is. So when we in many of these episodes, when we go to our next question, a lot of the times, understandably so, you gravitate towards roles who look like you.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if it's something you want to address, that folks that look like you were referred to twice in this film.
Yep.
But never seen.
Yes. Yep.
And those two references were some of the worst shit I've heard in years.
Yeah.
Like some of the most racist shit I've heard in a long time.
I agree. I will agree about the fact that was obviously not a good thing, but we're talking about a 70s movie about the 50s. So even if it was, so I can see how that ended up in the movie with that. Obviously, those were some of the most racist shit ever. I'm like, damn.
Yeah, it's
enough.
Like throw you back racist.
Yeah.
Like, woo.
Like, well, fuck you too. But no, like obviously but aside from the fact that because we normally talk about the roles or whatever, I'm like, there probably ain't gonna be a lot of black people. I never even thought about there even being any black people. I was like, can I do an Italian accent? Who are the less Italian-esque characters? Nobody. All right. So
Robert
Duvall, yeah. He's a cool character that I feel like that'd be a cool role to have. Just a guy that's like walking up like, I represent Vito Corleone. You're going to do this, that, and the other. And just have the guts to know you ain't going to do shit to me because of who I am. I can talk as much, you know what I mean? Because Robert Duvall seemed fun. If I was Italian enough, I could. I would like to do would I like to do Sonny's role? Michael's role would be very hard for me to pull off. I mean, challenge accepted, but
I mean, it's pretty low. Like, it's pretty low energy. It's pretty muted. It's pretty understated. It's pretty subtle.
It's more the what am I trying to say? Physical acting, like the subtleties, like subtle face movements where you see the transformation as he's sitting there and stuff. That's what I'm talking about. Like the powerful acted, like through motion more so than with the aid of words.
I don't know that. I'm an amateur in this department, as we've discussed before, but I feel like almost anybody can do that kind of thing as long as you got a good director.
Fair. I was told by a director
fucking Marlon Brando. God, spacing on the name for a second there. Marlon Brando is doing some acting. Like that takes a person to do that. Nothing against Al Pacino's performance, but it's so subtle. I don't know. I think you could do that.
Well, like I said, I'm definitely up to the challenge. And yes, Brando's definitely ridiculous, but I'm nowhere.
Like I feel like that's one of those
I'm
you
nowhere
couldn't
near Italian enough to do Brando.
Like it's impossible to imagine somebody else doing that.
Yeah,
like that's kind of the level of that Brando performance. Is he's now permanently in that. You can't you couldn't picture whoever they had, whatever that list was of actors of that time. Like there's no way anybody else would have.
Yeah, which is what. But yeah. I do see the role of Michael as doable enough. I'm not saying it wouldn't be doable, but I guess preferable, I guess, would be more so.
Yeah. Movie producer. Movie producer's got a couple of really good scenes. That could be interesting.
I did like the movie producer. That guy was... There was a lot.
You can, like, how do you think you would do a find a decapitated horse head in your bed?
Fair enough. Oh,
which he claims in behind the scenes stuff that he was not aware that was going to be in there. That he thought that he was going to be the scene was going to be him finding all of the blood. And that it wasn't going to be that single take. Like there wasn't a horse. Somehow they slipped it in there without him noticing. I don't believe that. But also that is a real horse head.
Okay.
They said they went to a stable and the horse had died of natural causes. No horse was killed for the film.
Is that
there just happened to be a horse
of the need for that? No horses were harmed in the making of this film.
Probably, yeah. No horses were harmed for the film. There just happened to be a fresh horse corpse, and we chopped off its head.
Sure. If that's true, that they didn't tell him there was a horse head on the bed, you know what I mean? And it was an actual horse head, my reaction would be similar. The same. I feel like anyone, if they legit found a horse head next to them, would be able to scream like crazy. That's terrifying. But yeah, how would you not know there was there?
I mean, that feels a little bit
would
too
be
much
very heavy,
like a story he's been telling and it's been growing over time, kind of thing. I don't know.
That would be very heavy on the bed.
Yeah.
And unless you thought it was just like equipment, like camera equipment, like they put on the bed while you were like getting in position. Like, oh, they put a camera to record my wake up. Okay, yep, I'm slowly finding. What is it? What? Oh, what the fuck? Ooh. Yeah, that's even worse now that was an actual horse head. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. That's so.
But there's other roles that are just, if it's not necessarily they're just. I would like to be like one of the like lesser like muscle like not lesser dudes. I like, what's his name? Clemenza. I like
the
Clemenza.
big guy.
I think you could do a good Clemenza as well. Or Luca Brasi.
Yeah, if I have to do an Italian accent, I'm fucked. So we talked about, I'd go for Robert Duvall's part, or the movie producer, or the Vegas guy, the Vegas hotel owner. whatever his name. I'm Mike Green. Like, it wasn't a very impressive. Yeah, Mo Green. Not an impressive name to be like. Do you know who you're fucking with?
Mo Green.
This is Mo Green. Like,
I'll take my chances.
You sound like you're a basketball player or on like a sitcom.
Who do I want to piss off? Mo Green or Vito Corleone? I want to piss off. I'll take my chances with Mo Green. Vito Corleone just sounds like a fucking mafia guy. You
Right.
know what I'm talking about? Like, nah, not no Don Corleone. Get out of here. I ain't messing with that guy.
So, final thoughts on the 9.2 rated, currently, I believe, number 6 on IMDb, The Godfather. What did you think?
I enjoyed it far more than I did the first time. You kind of hinted that you feel the same. Just do feel like it was a little too long.
Yeah.
There was some stuff that they could have done without and dragged this movie out, but at the same time, I feel like Coppola or whatever, whoever directed, decided how many scenes, whichever part of the process decided to put certain shots in films and said, here. They have a similar issue that I have where when you're trying to get your story apart, even if some things are technically unnecessary details, you still feel like you have to show them so that you can get the full grasp of the angle of how I'm telling the story. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I feel like the wedding, while fantastic, there were a lot of extra shots where it's like, you're never going to see any of these people again. Or just like, I felt like some of the stuff in Italy was a bit too, like, what are we doing? Why are we, roaming around the countryside? And, just stuff like that. So, could it have been shorter? Yes. There are moments like that. I watched it way too late at night, so while I was able to process everything going on, there were times where I was like, when it was getting near the end, where I'm like, oh shit, no, I can't. I actually care this time. I don't want to fall asleep. But I enjoyed it a lot more. I think anyone should at the very least give it a shot. I understand why it is as heralded as it is. It's because it's 3 hours, I probably won't rewatch it a lot. But now I know, hey, I can watch it for these reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you on a lot of those points. I think it's a very good movie. I do not think it's one of the greatest films of all time. I just don't. I don't see that. Especially some of the things that don't age well dialogue wise. Of the character is very similar in Martin Scorsese films.
Yeah.
The characterization of women and minorities is not great and doesn't make me feel good watching it. That I'm watching that as entertainment. It's not what that is for me, but it has some all-time great performances, obviously, in Marlon Brando, Al Pacino, and as I've said before again, Robert Duvall. I think all maybe career performances. Marlon Brando has a lot of crazy stuff in his younger years that are just out of control acting wise, monologues and shit. And so, I mean, he's great in those, but this is amazing. And then, as I said before, I've never been much of an Al Pacino fan, but he is the least Al Pacino I've ever seen him in this film. And and I think it's incredible. That is what holds this movie. I'm surprised. I enjoyed it, and I think I enjoyed it stylistically, and I think it was intentional, as we discussed before. of where the camera is placed
Yeah.
and what the camera is doing. I don't think it's necessarily like a, another film doing the same shots could be characterized as lazy filmmaking, as just like lazy camera work kind of things. But I think it's a stylistic choice here. I was just surprised that one of the top 10 greatest films of all time isn't doing interesting things with the camera. Like we know a Martin Scorsese or a Steven Spielberg or even some classic films are doing more things with the camera than just kind of putting it down and acting in front of it.
Yeah, I can see that.
So that was a surprise. That was another thing where I was like, is this really one of the greatest? Like, it's good. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
But is it like, if we're gonna cobble together a group of 10 films to like represent human art and culture, is this really one of them? I don't know about that.
As a whole, I can give you that. I think people look at the powerful performances, and the standout performances of the actors, and equate that to the whole film. You know, in their minds as they remember it. So, like you said, it's carried. This film is carried on the backs of, like, you know, Pacino and Brando's performances, and Duvall and, you know, others. So I think the performances of moments, there's enough collective moments so that in your mind that's what you mainly remember, and you're like, yeah, movie was fantastic. I think that's how it ends up.
Leave
on
the gun,
that level.
take the cannolis.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, leave the gun, take the cannolis. Such a good movie. And that's also why I like fucking Clemenza. He's just one of those characters.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
leave the gun, take the cannolis. As a scene ago, we heard off camera someone scream, "Don't forget the cannolis!" All right. Well, yeah, I think that was
great.
I really super enjoyed it, and I'm glad I can finally rubber stamp it. Done.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure, 100%. Yeah. My eyeballs were on the TV screen, 100% of it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm also happy that I, you know, gave it a second shot, and I can also rubber stamp it and be like, well, here's my honest opinion about The Godfather. Mm-hmm. Better than last year. But yeah, anyway, you guys know where you can find me if you look at. Obviously, you can find me on this channel. You can also find me elsewhere on YouTube with the Whatever We Want podcast every week, every Wednesday. I'm also on Twitter and Twitch at Giotavi. That is GIOTAVI. Come on in, stop on by. Got anything to say to the folks, Bill? Anything you want to say?
No.
All right. So, guys, thank you very much for watching. You guys have a good one.
Hold on. What are we going to watch next week?
Good point. Good point. Thank you. Thank you. What are we going to watch next week?
We are going to watch next week What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh, cool.
You don't watch much horror.
No, but I was just about to be like, our first horror. All right, I'm looking forward to it. All right, so yeah, What We Do in the Shadows. Anyway, thanks for watching. Adios.
Bye.